Well, he had to redo my Wi-Fi because it's on the same one, but for whatever reason, I guess it took a minute. Did you update it? Did the packet update? Oh, that's why.
Fancy.
Yeah, just see him. He kept playing with it. If we updated it, not too long. But whatever we downloaded before.
I just used the read version. Mine hadn't worked in months.
Oh, really? It came up at home, but when I got here, it wouldn't come up.
It did. That's what mine does. So I just like, yeah. Same thing.
But he said it's gonna pop up on the screen now, so on here, so we don't have, unless you want to read it now.
Fancy.
Good, man.
Really do something. I know. I'm just looking over at juror number 2 in the jury box. That's the one I'm worried
Okay.
about is juror number 2.
Good, bro.
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. Did update. It's
Look.
a lot more stuff.
Oh, well, actually, I wouldn't know to. He was email.
They're growing up.
Everybody pretty much ready?
Don, is everything on? We can start?
Okay, welcome everyone. This is Monday, June the 5th, 2023. It is now 6:31 PM and this is the Planning Zoning Commission meeting tonight here at 101 South Live Oak Road Street, Red Oak, Texas. We do have a quorum tonight. Have myself here, Derek Parks Chair. We have Mr. Scott, we have Mr. James, Ms. Karen, and Michael Brayley here. He's a member. He's came back to us, which we did. We have Meg. Evan at the end. And also too with the city staff. Excuse me, we have Ben, Director of Development Services, and Emma, Planning Zoning Manager. So the first thing here, we have a consent agenda item is approving the minutes from May the 1st of 2023. Commissioners, do y'all need some time to look at that, or can I have a motion, please?
Actually, I have a question. Just under item 3, the motion in the second by myself and Chairman Parks, where it shows denied 2-1, and I understand why that was later on, but reflecting that in the minutes as denied, it's going to be kind of confusing to someone that looks at it as a 2-1 vote without explanation. Can we just have the explanation, please? Okay. So I would move, if there's no other, I'll move we approve with that correction.
Ayes have it. Will be, it was approved.
Staff will change it.
Okay, staff is gonna change it. Okay. Thank you, Dan, for that explanation. Moving on to agenda item 2. which is consider approving a preliminary plat creating Lot 1, Block A, Compass DFW Southeast Edition for a manufacturing, fabrication, assembly, and warehouse use on approximately 0.98 acres out of the Alfred J. Park Survey. Number 3 is consider approving a final plat creating Lot 1, Block A of Compass DFW Southeast Edition. 4, which is consider approving a preliminary plat creating Lot 1 and Block 2, Lot 1 and Lot 2, Block 1 of the Hunsaker Mendez. 5th consent agenda item is consider approving a final plat creating Lot 1 and Block 2. Lot 1 and Lot 2, Block 1 of the Hunsaker Mendez addition on approximately 10 point.
So our plats are typically on consent agenda, just because they're a ministerial, act. First two, preliminary and final plat are gonna be subject to the council's approval of the zoning. The second two, the acreage limited us from doing what's called a short form plat, which is a combination of the preliminary and final plat process, but the way our ordinance is written and the acreage they have, we have to do a preliminary and final plat. So the first two, we're approving subject to the zoning being finally approved by the council as well as preliminary plat, because preliminary plat also has to be approved by council. And then the second one is, final plat is being approved subject to the council approving the preliminary plat, because that has to get approved by the council as well. So instead of bringing it back, just won't be approved if for some reason the council didn't approve the zoning or didn't approve the preliminary plat of either one of them, it just wouldn't be approved in its final state.
Questions?
Not with that explanation, I don't. Before I did, before that was so many consents.
It's meant to speed up the process, because we don't want to have to, because a lot of cities will do, okay, you've got to do your zoning, that's month 1. You got to do your preliminary plat, that's month 2, and then you bring your final plat, that's month 3.
Yeah.
So this just speeds it all up.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense to me.
Can I have a motion, please?
Move we approve the consent agenda item as presented.
Favor.
Oh, in a second.
Second by Michael. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes. Ayes have it. Moving along to, new business, which is conduct a public hearing and consider an amendment to the city of Red Oak, Texas, 2022 comprehensive plan and future land use map to change the designation from single family R2 to commercial C1 on the property described as Lot 11 and 12, Block B, Bobart Acres. Addition situated in the land private survey abstract number 22-0. Addressed as 722 Valley View Avenue, City of Red Oak, Ellis County, Texas, case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 23. Requested by Angela Hunt. Staff, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. The existing warehouse/storage use has been in operation for about 25 years. It is.
Don,
It's not coming up here.
it's not coming up on our screens.
Okay, there we go.
There's no record of a certificate of occupancy and ownership of the property has recently been changed. This has prompted a zoning review in which it has been determined that the site does not meet any of the zoning standards for its current zoning district, nor the current vision for the future land use plan of the property. The current future land use designation of this site has designated as suitable for residential uses. The applicant is requesting for the future land use designation on the site to be amended from single-family residential two to commercial District 1, C1. The existing mini warehouse / storage use would be a supported use under the C1 designation, and the C1 future land use designation would apply to this site only. As the site has been in operation for 25 years and has a low impact on the surrounding area, staff does recommend approval of the request. And the following agenda item request will be to amend the zoning change, the zoning district from agricultural district to commercial district to allow for the site to operate as a warehouse use.
Additionally, this was a piece of property that was annexed after it was developed. The based in ag, which developed or by our zoning. No,
Those that are in favor of this item, you can go first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Angela Hunt. I'm at 500 North Ackerd Street in Dallas. I represent the applicant, Sandy Smith. I'm here tonight to explain this request, but I just wanted to make sure, Mr. Chair, if you'd like me to present both the request for the comprehensive plan amendment and also the zoning at one time, just to keep it compact, if that would be all right with you. Very good. Thank you, sir. Ms. Smith bought this property last year, and she bought it from the folks who had originally developed the site. The person who had developed it had passed, so it went to the estate. She purchased it from the estate, not knowing that there were any zoning issues since the property had been in operation for almost a quarter century as a mini warehouse use. When she came to get a certificate of occupancy, she learned that she would need to rezone the site because it was zoned agricultural, and that's why we're here tonight. The site was developed 25 years ago. It was annexed into the city a couple of years later, and then she purchased the property last year. So our comprehensive plan amendment, as you heard, is from R2 to C1. Now, the properties just to the north of this site have on the map for your comprehensive plan a designation of C1 as well. So this would mesh well with that. And it's also just off of Vila Road, which is a 6-lane divided highway. So this isn't going to cause considerable traffic in a residential street. The rezoning request, it's been in operation without issue for 25 years. The zoning request is to have a planned development district with a base zoning of C2, which allows a mini warehouse use. Now, what we're doing is we're stripping out all the other uses that you could get under C2, which could be far too intense for this area. So nothing but a mini warehouse use would be permitted here. In addition, we've modified the underlying zoning for setbacks and for parking and for utility easements for landscaping. And it's only to address the current build out of the site because of course it wasn't built according to the C2 standards. So we've just modified it for that. Outside storage is prohibited here. And the trash receptacles are all located internal to the building. So there aren't any dumpsters on the site and there cannot be. In working with the city on this zoning request, we have also offered a number of conditions that will improve the property, and they will be requirements for this zoning. Brick will be added to the front facade of the building up to 4 feet high. That will improve the look of the building. There's an existing top of building sign that's going to be relocated, removed from the top of the building, and a very nice brick monument sign will be put in instead. There's going to be new landscaping, particularly along the front. You're going to see 5 new trees, and there's going to be screening added just on the south side of the property, which is adjacent to a single-family residential use. And we're adding a landscape irrigation system. Here's the existing street frontage. Here's what it's going to look like. and there's the monument sign. We would appreciate your support, and I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else that's, I can have a motion to close. Commissioner.
So there's no screening, Emma, can you?
Come forward and you see you guys can screen the information.
Sarah Scott, 13455 Noel Road, Suite 700, Dallas, Texas, 75240. So I am with Kimley Horn, we're civil engineer and landscape architects for this. We are proposing a row of southern wax myrtles. They're shrubs to screen the southern property line along the single family home. So it'll be 5-gallon shrubs planted 30 inches on center for that row. And that was part of the landscape plan submitted with the development plan. Any other questions I can answer? Thank you.
Can I have a motion, please?
A motion to approve item 6 as presented.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes.
Thank you.
7 is conduct a public hearing and consider zoning change from agriculture to PD 154 to allow new warehouse storage development as is with other changes. Property described as lot 11 and 12. Acres addition situated. Title survey abstract. Texas, case number 0.
And this is the following item for the comprehensive plan amendment that was just approved. So would you like for me to kind of just go through it and discuss the items? Okay. The site currently does not meet the minimum setback, parking, landscape requirements, or space to provide utility easements, as the site was developed 25 years ago before it was annexed into the city limits. The applicant is requesting a plan development with the base zoning district of Commercial District 2 to allow for continued operation of the mini warehouse. The site will be governed by the attached PD regulations and the plans, with the existing mini warehouse storage use being the only allowed use. Patrons have access to the site from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. and there's one gated entrance at the front. The applicant will be planting trees and shrubbery along the front and side of the property. And they will be installing brick wainscot along the front of the facade of the property. They will also be installing a monument sign as shown on the attached plan. And staff does recommend approval of the request. And If this does get approved, then it will have to be in accordance with the attached PD regulations, and the attached landscape plan and site plan.
Thank you.
Mhm.
This is a public hearing. Those in favor of this item, you can, go first and, state your name and your address, please. If not, does anyone have any questions regarding agenda item 7? Can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please? All in favor? Ayes. Public hearing has been closed. Commissioner, do you have any questions or anything regarding agenda item 7? If not, can I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve item 7 as presented.
All in favor? Ayes. Ayes have it. Agenda item 7 has been approved.
Y'all don't want to stick around just for the fun of it or anything?
Moving on to agenda item 8.
So council next week in the same spot.
This is another public hearing, agenda item 8. Conduct a public hearing and consider a zoning change from agriculture to PD 153 for the development of a manufacturing, fabrication, and assembly warehouse use on the property described.
So I was talking about the map.
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
I'm watching you. man. Described as Lot 1, Block A of Compass DFW Southeast Edition, and being out of the Alfred J. Park Survey, abstract number 850, and addressed as 410 Houston School Road, City of Red Oak, Ellis County, Texas. Case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat, 23-12, requested by, I don't want to butcher it, Pacheco Coach, Westwood Company. Staff, please.
The applicant is proposing to construct a 103,200 square foot manufacturing assembly facility on a 12.998 acre piece of land. The facility will be used for manufacturing, assembling, and testing of electric equipment. The building will be 40 feet high and will be made of concrete tilt wall panels. Adequate parking and landscaping will be provided as shown on the plans, and there will be 2 points of access from Tater Brown Road on the north. Staff recommends approval of the request as presented, and the request is in compliance with the future land use plan for the fabrication and assembly use. And since this site will only have access to Tater Brown, they'll just basically take 35 to get access, and there won't be any trucks or access really kind of going through the city. And this area in general has more of an industrial use that's focused on here, so
The site plan.
it's appropriate to the surrounding areas.
So this is it's an industrial use, a big industrial building, just like all the big industrial buildings that are going out there, I believe, and I'll let the applicant talk more about what they actually do, but it's a subsidiary or partner use to the data centers. They manufacture giant electrical things that go with the data centers. They can tell you more about it, but we scroll down a little on the site plan. Sorry, back on the site plan. So you can see there, North Austin Road is going to be going right up next to the site, and their main access points are going to be in Tater up there, because there's going to be a pretty sizable detention pond along Austin.
This is a public hearing, so those that are in favor of this item, you can go first. Thank you, Em. State your name and your address, please.
Good evening. Alex Comunes, 7557 Rambler Road, Suite 1400, 75231. And I'm here with Pacheco Co. So this is a industrial product, like Ben has mentioned. From my understanding, it's going to be assembling electrical equipment within the building and testing out the manufacturing portion of that inside the building.
Anything else you want to add? That's
No,
pretty
sir.
much.
No for questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else for this item? Or anyone else that has questions regarding this agenda item? Come to the podium, please. State your name and your address, please.
My name is Wes Moffett. My wife is Marilyn. We're 3200 South Houston School Road. I think the map that was up a minute ago, the property to the north of Compass is our property, going all the way up north into Lancaster. So we adjoin the Compass site that's under development now, the Snyder site that you're here talking about tonight, and then what I call the excess Compass land, which goes to the east over toward 342. Our issue is really about drainage. This is an issue we raised with Compass about a year ago. It's still unresolved. They came to us about a year ago and said we would like to outflow our stormwater right here next to your property. Your property is 20 feet to the north. And what we're going to outflow is we're going to outflow a portion of the stormwater coming off of our original development and stormwater coming off of Tater Brown Road and stormwater coming off the Austin Boulevard site as well. That's going to outflow right here. It's going to be done through an 18-inch concrete pipe. And we're going to put it right here. And we would like you guys to sign off on this. This is a temporary solution to how we're going to drain this site. And we said, what's the permanent solution? They didn't have one. We said, how long is the temporary solution going to be in place? We didn't get an answer. What we did get was we got a bunch of conversation from Compass that the engineers were working on this. They were coming up with a plan. They were working with the city of Red Oak. They were going to come to us and show us what the alternatives may be. There was a regional stormwater study that was being done for all of this portion of Alice County. They were going to come present it to us. We could be a portion, we could be a part of the solution to it. We would have a say in it. We would know exactly what was happening. That never happened. It's been a year, nothing's happened. So fast forward a year, we now have 13 more acres, whole lot more stormwater. Granted, there's a retention pond, but that stormwater is all going to be dumped in the exact same site they wanted to dump in before, now with more. We still don't have answers. So I'm against this, we're against this, not because of the use. We're fine with the use. We're fine with the zoning, but until we can understand the drainage, I don't think that we can be in favor of this. And frankly, I'm not sure how the city can approve this without being able to explain the drainage. I don't know if Compass made this request, or I don't know if Snyder made this request. If Compass made this request, they know what our issue is. They've known for a year. We've been very clear. I've got all the emails back and forth about this, about the meetings that we're going to set up that never got followed up, et cetera. If Snyder's making the request, they may or may not know about this. I want them to know though. I want them to know tonight, and I'll make them aware at the city council meeting next week. We have an issue. We need to work it out. We're pro-growth, we're pro-Compass, we're pro-Snyder, we're pro-Red Oak. But let's figure out how we work through the solution and come up with something that works for the area, not just for this one site. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. West. Anyone else? Any questions regarding this agenda item? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please? Motion. All in favor? Aye, ayes have it. The public hearing has been closed. Commissioners, you have any questions or?
I guess just down here.
So what? From what I remember from the plans that I received from Compass was that this is all of this area, you know, they're detaining it here. Most of theirs goes through this this creek that runs through here, that's on their big site right now. Their big pond, right, is next to the substation, like right in here. And then the stuff on Tater, the plans that they've got, and you know, you've got the new Tater Road here. It's not showing up in this aerial yet. But it all went here and then it was gonna drain out here. So I'm not privy to the conversations you've had, so we can talk more. And if you wanna send me whatever they've sent you, cause I don't know what y'all have talked about. But all the drainage that was coming to so this, when we were looking at that plan just a second ago, this is the future North Austin Road here. And some of the Tater Brown and then this area was draining to kind of a point here, collecting in the road and then draining down this way is what they showed on their plans, that they were gonna dig this out and have it drain down to eventually get down to the creek. So if that didn't happen, I guess I need to
So
know.
none of that is happening.
Yeah. So I guess what? Yes.
Determination of Tater Brown was passed through the intersection with Austin Boulevard.
Yeah. Great.
They dug a hole in the ground,
Mhm.
and all those pipes drain into that hole. That's us, the field behind is filed, you can
Right.
see.
Right.
Okay.
The one to the left is us, the one to the left of that's us, partly us, because we sold a little piece to Compass to help
Right.
in the drainage. And the one over there to the right is tree, further over that way is us.
Right, so
So- so they-
I've
so-
seen the hole.
So they
Okay.
came to us and said, here's an outflow of the ditch.
Just while he's grabbing it. I have seen the hole. It's,
We're not trying to be difficult. We're going.
No, I-
We'll cover all this, but it's just, I don't know what else to do. So they came to us and said, we have this out, this is what they came to us and said. First of all, it was just all gonna dump into that hole. One we just talked about, just past Boston Boulevard.
Mhm.
Then they came to us and said, okay, well, the temporary plan now is we're gonna build an outflow ditch. It's gonna go down about 1,100 feet that way. And we're gonna dump it all out over there. Temporary.
Right.
We said, okay, temporary, how long? Don't know. What's the permanent solution?
but was this on your land or I thought this was
This is
the
on
land?
their land, but
Yeah.
I'm here. This is me right there.
Yeah.
So their answer was, we don't know it's temporary.
Right.
We're
I-
working on.
The
a more
intent, the
permanent-"
intent was that it daylight, right? Your pipe's deep.
Mhm.
Ground's up high. It's gonna daylight down here somewhere and then just continue down all this flows that way, right?
For the most part, yeah.
So I know that was the intent,
Uh-huh.
and but I also know the plans they submitted, it was Tater Brown and Austin and the ditch. And I know they haven't finished all of it yet,
Mhm.
so because they're still working on Austin Boulevard. So it's in their approved plans. We won't accept the roadway until that's done.
How do we work through this? No, like I said, we're pro Compass, we're pro Snyder, we're pro that area, we want this to develop. We have no issues. We just want it to be drained the right way, where all the water's not. This is a bad plan for all the water to drain
I
right
understand.
here. That's a really bad plan, and that's the plan. right?
So it's not the plan. The plan is this right here. Cause they won't be able to, we won't accept their improvements until this is done.
I'm not trying to be good.
I know. I'm trying to tell you the process of what happens.
So we were told temporary. But then they said, no, we're working on the master area. Working on that with.
Yeah. Yep.
Their engineer, and they're also working on, coming up with a master plan for this whole area. All the stormwater, and water, it's great. They went on to say, as soon as we have it, it's very close, we'll present, show us, get you comfortable. And they said, great. And then it goes, great, it's not. Because.
Okay. So this is still the plan as far as I've ever seen. And so our expectation of the city is that they're gonna complete their approved plans as they've been submitted. And so that's where we are as a city, and we aren't really in the business of telling people how to do their construction. Now, if it's causing damage to your property, that's certainly something. Okay, so that's certainly something we can address with them, but at the end of the day, they own all this stuff until we accept it, and that's why we don't accept it until it's done correctly and done to 100% finished state. Because they're not done with construction, yes.
And they push it down 1,100 feet to this outflow channel.
Correct.
Isn't shown on the side of the plan.
Right,
Side
it's
of
not,
the
it's,
plan shows all outflowing right there.
it flows into that, storm system that's in Taylor. Right, it's detained and then it's released at pre-developed condition into the storm drain system.
So. Take the road down. So we go- go to east of it, go out. Okay. So what happens next? The inside develops, so they're gonna pump it just to the north of there.
If I remember right, I think
Property or next property?
I think all the topo runs this way
The property mostly runs that way.
and it comes down and then gets into this this creek. There's kind of a draw here and then a creek here that runs down to the railroad and then down to the main Bear Creek. So they're trying to get everything to Bear Creek, because that's where it went originally. It's just now taking a slightly different path and more channelized.
Mr. Harvey, do you know what the timeline is on the road?
I know it was cut and it's being, I don't know if it's being paved, but I think they're setting steel and, working on it.
So I can put a same to that. Half of Boston Boulevard. From down past the church. To the north office. The playground. Onto the. And later the concrete. It's the. Really have. Most of the dirt work has been done. We haven't got it down.
So half the road is built from here to here. Yeah.
But it stops about 50, 60 feet short of where it intersects the. pavement. Obviously, there's these different turns, but I'm sure that's some of it. So some of it is, if there's pipe, it's gonna be put across there.
Right.
Even it's whole.
Right.
And so we would like simply know who can we talk to work this out where.
It doesn't affect you.
That's all. we need.
Okay.
And so I don't know how to get that done. We try to do it with Compass. Because they were our neighbors. We actually sold them, we sold them that Compass.
Mhm.
And so, we try to work with Compass. And that's what they asked us to do.
Okay.
That was probably instead of these files, instead of you guys.
That's fine.
Like you guys really haven't heard this.
I knew there was a hole out there, but I also knew they're still in the middle of construction, so. Again, we don't dictate schedules to them, but if it's causing damage to your property, that's something we can reach out and talk to them
I'm not
about.
gonna sit there today and tell you it's causing damage. That's how that area is, drainage is down.
Mhm.
It's no that. And so, I just wanna make sure it doesn't damage. Doesn't happen.
Okay.
Doesn't.
Well, our expectation is it's gonna be built as you've seen it, which is what these plans show, because this is what we approved and what they are obligated to build.
If we schedule.
Sure.
We sit down, we do it. And look,
Sure.
I don't want that. So we can understand. How this is all.
Yeah.
How we get comfortable with it.
I mean, it's gonna work like this, but yeah, I'm more than happy to sit down and go over it with them.
So that didn't use what they told me.
It's temporary because at the time it was designed, Tater was gonna go down all the way to the end. And so,
I'm getting it out here. I'm not asking you to tell me that that's the final plan, because I don't know what it is, and I'm just looking at one page of it, so.
I reviewed in detail the plans before we, let them go. Absolutely,
Sit down and go through this.
absolutely.
Try to do this, to work. city council meeting this week.
Yeah.
Because I'd like to, I don't wanna have to go.
I understand. Yeah.
Or actually, like the easiest people in the world to go on.
I understand. Yeah.
I think you've been kind of, I don't think that's what the city of Red Oak used to call us. I don't know why that is.
I've never had any, yeah.
Right. Of course. We totally understand.
Yeah.
Totally understand.
And so, what's the best way to do this? You know,
Yeah,
call you-
I believe your wife has my email, but she emailed me earlier and I apologize, I did not have time to respond to her, but we'll set something up through that
And we're also,
Tuesday, Wednesday.
we're also happy for, if there's other people, Compass, Schneider, engineers, so, you know, like, I don't care. I just want to figure out how do we get this worked out, so we're all good here.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay.
And I'm also not gonna tell you I'm an engineer, 'cause I'm not.
I understand.
We've been in the real estate business for a long time, we know how this process is gonna work.
Sure.
We just want to work it out. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, hang on to this. And I'll, is this your question?
Yeah, we'll reach out to you. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll give you a day.
Well, let's meet this week. Let's meet this week.
Thank you, Ben. Commissioner, do you have any questions or concerns?
But just to recap what Harper was saying, the water from the site's supposed to be diverted to the detention pond and then it will be.
So if you see here on the right, yeah, the right side of your, the plan there, that's Schneider's detention pond.
Right.
So Compass has their own detention ponds. So it's designed to release the pre-developed condition, so. You know, there's 100 CFS leaving the site, before anything got put on it, and now there's gonna be way more leaving the site, but it gets released at a rate that is the same as the previous rate being released.
So so the two are going to two separate detention ponds.
This site goes to its own detention pond. The Compass site has their own detention.
Anyone else? If not, can I have a motion, please? Yes, sir. Agenda item 8.
I'm sorry, I was trying to catch back up here.
Me too.
Motion to approve item 8 as presented with the fact that Ben is gonna work through this issue, because it's an issue I totally agree with. It needs to be made sure of.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Agenda item 8 has been approved. Moving along to agenda item 9, which is a conduct a public hearing and consider a zoning change from commercial C1 to plan development PD 151 to allow for a reduction in landscaping, parking, and changing uses on the property located on the northwest corner of North Main Street and Methodist Street on property described as part of the 60 R Bell survey, property ID number 179894 in the city of Red Oak, Texas. Case number Z as in zebra, C as in cat 23-08, requested by Gene Lower. Staff, please.
The existing building was constructed almost 100 years ago, and the site currently does not meet the city's minimum landscaping or parking requirements. The applicant is requesting that the off-site parking to serve this site be served as that the off-site parking be served as the required on-site parking. If a restaurant were to become a tenant of the site, a parking agreement would be required with an adjacent property to support the restaurant parking. There's currently little room for additional landscaping as the site has little pervious surface and a narrow strip of shrubbery. The applicant is requesting that the existing landscaping serve as the required landscaping for the site. The proposed allowed uses for the site have also been revised to ensure future uses will benefit the city's historic downtown area. They can be referenced on the attached use list table. The current exterior of the building has been overlaid with stucco material that covers all historical and architectural significance of the building, and staff recommends approval of the PD with the following 3 main regulations. Number one, within 2 years of the effective date of the ordinance, the building owner restores the front facade of the building to appear more like the original facade, including but not limited to A, removing all ephes and exposing and restoring the original brick facade. B, removing the front columns and covering. C, restoring the large storefront windows with windows that are period correct. D, restoring the recessed entry. E, installing a metal tie rod awning. F, restoring the build date plaques on the top of the building. And then two, within 2 years of the date of the effective date of this ordinance, the building owner submits a mural plan for Waller Street, for the Waller Street side of the building to the city council for approval that includes a plan depicting the exact artwork and colors to be used. B, a plan that utilizes the entirety of the wall. C, a landscape plan that removes existing shrubbery and installs new landscaping that is complementary to the new mural in both color and in scale. And then number three, the entitlement sunset, which is basically the zoning is lost after 2 years if the regulations are not met. So during the last P and Z meeting, this item came before you all and the applicant withdrew the case before it went to city council. So he reinstated his application. So staff amended the conditions. The prior recommendations was that the entire building be renovated and have its original look as shown on the picture here. But it's kind of been condensed and hopefully less burdensome. Less burdensome to limit it to the front of the building and to the mural on Waller Street. And this is the original building, how it appeared. These are examples of murals. These are just examples. This is the current building, and this kind of just points out all of the proposals that were listed in the items that I just listed out to you.
And if you remember last time, the consensus was that to obviously restore the whole building was too much money. And so the commission approved it or made a motion to approve it with doing nothing. And so staff lessened their recommendation to the council to say, let's just do the front and do a mural on the side, which again, Emma has already stated that the applicant withdrew and is now reinstating. So we have to go back to this. So we're lessening our recommendations for the building based on our conversations we had last time with the commission feeling, or two of the commission members out of the three feeling it was too much to do to the building.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Em. Appreciate it. This is a public hearing. Those in for this item, you can step to the podium and state your name and your address, please. And those that may be against this item, you can go after that.
You don't want to speak?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your time tonight. So, this
Name and
building.
address real quick.
Name and
Oh,
address,
yes,
I'm
my
sorry.
name is Gene Bond, 5435 Cripple Creek Circle, Midlothian, Texas, 76065. So I was at the planning and zoning meeting, last month. And, the recommendation from city staff at that point was to restore the entire exterior of the building, to make it look like it was back in 1904, within 6 months. And so there was three, members present. And we got a majority vote for my recommendation, which was to leave the building the way it is and move forward with the variance for parking and landscape. From my point of view, this really isn't a planning and zoning case. really shouldn't be here tonight. This is a variance case. Unfortunately, though, the city of Red Oak, doesn't have a zoning board of adjusters in place right now. And so if they would have, had that in place, then we would have just gone to the zoning board of adjusters and prove the hardship, because it's pretty obvious hardship for the landscaping requirements and for the parking. Originally, I withdrew from the city council meeting because after we got the majority vote at the planning and zoning meeting, I was sent the next day a new list of items for the recommendations from the city. And I'm learning as I go, right? And the city's also learning from me as they go. We're learning from each other. So I pointed out to the city that, hey, there's some formalities that we might want to clean up together to improve this experience for everyone. And one of those was on the city website, in big bold red letters, when you click on planning and zoning, it says you must have 4 affirming votes at the meeting. And that is published on the website. Now, Ben read the fine print in black and white, and it says that you have to have 3 affirmative votes. So there's some confusion there on my part, which is understandable. I hope that the website's been corrected. I think that will help other people that are going through the similar experience. What we're really trying to do is we're trying to open up a hair salon. And there's an existing hair salon in Red Oak. They've been in this area, operating on Ovilla Road for many years. They're a veteran business, they're proven business. They're mainly appointment only. And they have this great idea for a new concept to come in here and open a salon called Bonnie and Clyde. It's gonna be a men and women's hair salon, barbershop. It's gonna be a little bit more upscale, a little bit higher end than some of the other places that you may have visited in our city. So they want to move in as quickly as possible. They want to be a long-term tenant and the anchor for this development. I'm excited about it. They're excited about it. They've already invested some money in some branding and equipment. And so I'm fully supporting their choice to occupy this building. The building has gone through a full cosmetic refresh. The stucco exterior of this building is immaculate in condition. I walked it this afternoon just to make sure there's not one defect, not one crack, not even a scratch. It's had a full paint job with really good coatings. All of the awnings and accents have been painted as well. This building also has a newer roof. The estimated cost for the original city staff recommendation that I came up with was around $130,000. And that would be to remove all the stucco, polish and clean, regrout the brick, add the windows, add the awnings, and so on. What I learned afterwards is that the exterior system on this building is actually the insulation for the building. It has an exterior insulation. So if we cut that wall open, there'll be insulation inside the wall. On this building, it's actually attached to the outside. So you have a layer of foam, then you have a layer of stucco. The inside is some of the original brick that's been patched up with CMU. And from what I can tell, the brick was in poor condition. That's why someone did this probably 40, 50 years ago. So all I'm asking for is a landscaping variance and a parking variance. I think we are required to have 10 spaces. We could squeeze probably 6 or 7 cars here without probably affecting any of the neighbors. And that's probably the most cars we'd ever have at any given moment for this type of use. I'm here to answer any questions, and I appreciate everybody, being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Gene. Anyone else here that want to have any questions or against this item? If not, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please? So moved. All in favor? Aye. Public hearing has been closed. Commissioners, questions, concerns? What are your thoughts?
Can you bring back up the list? That's what's the timeline. 2 years. 2 years. Every year. 2 years.
Any other questions, Commissioner?
No, I don't have any issue. I appreciate y'all continuing to work on it and come up with what appears to be a little I don't want to say the word fair, because Fair Day's in October, but a little more equitable for both sides, so have no problem.
I have a question about the mural. It just says plan should be presented to you. So if we're gonna have Indians, anything about this, I think they mural. It could be further out. but
Right, okay, yeah, we can add that.
that one.
Recommendation on that?
No idea how long it takes to grow.
I don't either. That's what I was-
Year or Get it completed.
Is this something they're doing or something in conjunction with the city? Or is that-
It would be a, city approved mural by the owner.
Okay,
So they put a sketch together with dimensions and present it to city council and they say it looks good.
I mean, I think that's a great point that Ms. Stanfield made, because for Mr. Honda as well, to know
Yeah.
what that time frame would be.
Yeah, so you can say, plan within 2 years, built or painted within 6 months after that. I don't know.
You left out a lot of information that was covered last time. Last time, I'm trying to be thoughtful over time.
Yeah.
I really felt so much I know it that we thought that's for now. We left out the economic development. How we will keep the restoration to the-
Right. There's this,
Things The other members might know about. More
does the 6 months of completion after the presented approved give you adequate time? Once it's approved, you have an additional 6 months? I mean, I would think so, but I don't want to speak for you.
So unfortunately, the new recommendations from the city are not what the added civil. Landscaping, the role, and then also the assessment for the actual structure. Everything cost. Site skyscraper, but we don't have the means to do this type of modifications. And to be honest with you, I feel that everyone's getting a little bit back and forth, helping each other. I'm not a huge fan of front of the building being brick, the rest of the stuff. I don't think that's gonna do each other to see. I was the one who brought up the mural idea, because I had a concept in place to put murals throughout the downtown area. I used to know that I thought we could consult the city staff before doing that. I don't want to be obligated to a timeframe or financial obligation for any of these items at all. I will in good faith tell you that we will improve and continue to improve this building, not just financially possible. But let's not set this list that's less burdensome than the list. It is in some ways, but when you present a completely different list of items versus the other one, they're agreed to pay. For interpretation. It's still an extreme concern, probably some stress on, the financial model of that place. None of these buildings in downtown are big time rent, these are all mom and pops, which I'm fully supporting and trying to bring them down. And, we're not a huge corporation renting the building, but we would have, we're mom and pop businesses. I mean, even the rent over the duration of a 6-year lease contract, minus property taxes and insurance, puts us in red. And so we're not able to move forward with the same financially with this approach. Now, in good faith, will we improve the building? Sure. I've actually consulted with an artist. Ben, I wasn't gonna bring this up because I didn't want to lock this in, but how many people are familiar with the new mural in downtown? The one viral on Facebook. Okay, so there's a brand new mural, and it says welcome, each one of the letters, as a signature on of what the landmarks are in downtown. So immediately when I noticed that it's catching wind on there, I contacted the artist. He met me at this event last week. And we walked around the entire building. He said, "This is a great campus." And I said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "How much would it cost to do the red? The land?" We actually have that ready. That's ready. But it's not cheap. it's still very expensive. It's a third of what you do. So it's a big investment. A last ditch effort to try to keep moving forward. I will throw that in at 2 years easily, and pull that off. I engage that same artist, and we're gonna render it, you can see it. We went around and picked all the major landmarks of Red Oak, put it in letters, gave him 2 different options. Really beautiful art. He's excited about maybe doing some other stuff, I'm sure you can apply, but I don't want to get carried away about it. Let's focus on what we're talking about today. I could commit to that within 2 years, might happen in 2 months. But tearing the building, you just can't. There's only 7 people that. And if you want to see the mural, I'll show you. Thank you.
Commissioners, anything?
I just don't know what we're accomplishing if we approve this and it's not gonna be done. It just doesn't make any sense to me that we're approving something that's not gonna happen. Either we have something that's gonna be doable or we don't. And it's not anybody's fault. I'm just saying there's not enough consensus here to really get here. If we're gonna approve something that we know we can't do, then why are we approving it? I'll go back to last meeting for those that weren't here. I'm all about the concept, that idea and concept for renovating that area has been on the books for many years, since I'm on council. Love the idea. It's gonna take more than one building to do that. And it's gonna take city involvement and city funding in some way, shape or form in that area to renovate it into what we're talking about. And we're not gonna be able to put that on the backs of any landowner down there. And that's the only reason I voted that way before. I love the idea. I want it to be that. I think it would be an amazing thing. We're not gonna have anything. We're gonna continue to have empty buildings down there is what we're gonna have. And I don't know that those benefit anybody. So I just don't wanna sit here and vote on something that's not gonna be, that's no relevance.
I'm sorry. Bill, what else was brought up at the last meeting that you said wasn't covered today?
So
I mean, you don't have to cover it all, but
Sure.
what was it?
So the original idea, and again, I second what Mr. Lindsay just said. I'm on board with it. Let's tear the whole stucco off. Let's make it look just like that picture, right? That'd be awesome. I mean, I want to do that, right? I mean, everybody would appreciate it, I'm sure. Here's the problem though. Originally, it was presented, if you go to the EDC and they approve a grant, to pay for it. So when I heard that, started thinking, well, if the EDC could help us do that, get this kind of cornerstone of the downtown historic area looking that way, and they want to fund that, I'll do the construction, I'll manage it. If we come in under budget, I'll give the money back. I'll show them open book transparency on every dollar spent, and we'll make it look exactly like the picture that's in Mr. Hartman's office or Emma's office. And of course, we would do that. EDC is looking at sales tax dollars. Hair salons don't create or generate a sales tax dollar value that's significant enough to justify that type of investment at this time. So, 6 years from now, when their lease is up, if they want to move on to another location and we want to bring in a restaurant or bar or, something really exciting that would bring more traffic and more sales tax revenue, I'll re-engage the EDC and have them come in and vet out the sales tax revenue and hopefully get that grant. And if rents skyrocket in Red Oak tomorrow for some unknown reason, then I would have the money to do the project and I would do it on my own, but that's probably not gonna happen. So that was probably the the biggest missing piece. The other piece is parking. This site doesn't have the parking to have that type of establishment.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, anything else?
Yeah, there were- And the other recommendations.
Our recommendations are in the packet.
Gotcha.
Anyone else? Alright. If not, can I have a motion for agenda item 9, please?
No action is, no action.
All right, tonight, planning zone agenda item 9, will be a no action.
Does anybody have a motion? If you don't, if you think, I would say, if you think you want to recommend to the council that it be left as is, then that's your recommendation, and council can make the final decision, because that's what they need to do. If you want to recommend to the council that they do a mural within 2 years, I think that's, again, the city council has the final say. They're gonna make the final decision. If you want to recommend that they restore the building. Right? So I think it's prudent here that we give some kind of motion just to get it before the city council, so that the applicant can have closure on this building, and he can either rent it or sell it.
But it's not as presented.
No,
It's
it'd be-
obviously gonna be,
It'd be a
a lot of
motion of
difference.
whatever someone feels strongly that should be sent to the council. So I'd say, based on our discussions, it's either go to the council as is, as submitted, as applied for. And as applied for is, the building looks exactly the same forever and ever, and it allows a few C1 uses. Secondarily type, or a second one would be on the complete opposite spectrum, which would be staff's recommendations, which was the items to improve the front as well as do the mural all within 2 years. Or it could be a mix where it's either just the front, or just the front with these things done on the front, or just the mural. But again, city council has the final say. So I would not be shy about making a motion here.
Okay.
I'll move that we approve item 9 with the change that we do not require the front facade to be renovated, but we do require a mural to be completed within 2 years.
and I will second that.
All in favor? Aye. Nays? 3-2. Ayes have it, agenda item,
Sorry, I missed it. Who was the? 1, 2,
You want to do a roll
three.
call?
Yeah, can you do a quick roll call just for our notes?
okay,
Stanfield, aye.
Lindsay, I.
Derek, aye.
Raleigh, no.
McLean, no.
So 3 ayes,
Does that suffice?
That carries 3-2, yeah.
that carries 3-2.
Thank you.
Agenda item 9 has, been approved with those recommendations. All right, moving on. We don't have any more, public hearing items. The next, item we have is, discussing. Sorry.
That's all right. I know you want to jump.
I'm sorry. Strong towns to rebuild American prosperity. Thank you, Mr. Jean, once again.
Right. How did y'all feel about the book? The first 3 chapters. Writing style is a little bit different, right?
Yes, it is.
So chapter 1. the author introduced the human habitat. And he discussed complex versus complicated systems in our history of development in North America. Y'all have any thoughts about that? Introduced a very interesting concept about the differences between those two development patterns.
That was fascinating that when they pointed out that the way that we are used to things developing was very recent. Things went very differently from the previous thousands of years.
Right. And he talks a bit about how, because of the ways that things were developing back in the day, we could learn from them, really. We could learn from our mistakes and our successes and build upon them. But now it's a little bit different. Y'all know how different?
Yes.
Discuss about that.
Well, we've locked ourselves into a lot of it.
Yeah.
You know, I think that in reading that, we've become so ingrained in the use of vehicles and transportation and what's there that I don't, you know, it's gonna be what I was reading, it's gonna be really hard to go back. Because of the infrastructure that's already in place. You know, to say you want to completely change an area that's developed. It was very interesting, but it was very confusing. I'm thinking of kind of, in my mind, my little pea brain of saying how you would change that.
Right. And
What it makes me think of is, what is the next iteration of transportation, right? We're just in our, short span of 100 years, the automobile has just completely changed the world, right?
Right.
But if you go back before that, it was about 6,000, 7,000 years that we were just horseback, right? But then previously it was 200,000 years of just walking around,
Right.
right? So what's the next? It's like, we're making these slight changes with the electric vehicles, but what's like the next real innovation in transportation? It's gotta be something, I mean, I can't even think of it, right? Is it like Jetson style stuff? Are we, are we just transporting? Like antimatter?
Teleporting, yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that.
Yeah. So I was like, what's the next iteration that we don't even know about yet?
I believe it's the Jets.
It'll be like, it's in the tubes and stuff, vacuum tube.
Vacuum tubes, like it looks at the bank. I think
bringing it
about that
back
all the time.
from year 3000 here.
Yeah.
Think
So-
of it, it could be not just teleporting us, teleporting items to delivery. I mean, because you look at, what was it, 98, I used to do what Uber's doing now, I was doing back then for South Beach, for the elderly on the beach delivering their groceries. And now, rather than going to the store, people are going to Instacart. So I think we'll get more there before we get to us transporting ourselves, but items being, because I think right now UPS and Google and them are doing all these drones to drop stuff to your house. So I think we'll get there first before we start.
The other's point on how we don't really have an incentive to fix problems now. We can just throw something else at it. We can just, like I said, just hire more police. If there's a crime problem, so we're trying to figure out ways to design our cities so they have less crime.
And they also talked about adaptability, and those types of systems are strong, they're not fragile. So for example, in a lot of city zoning ordinances, you can't add on, so you can't put a retail development in front of your home. You can't add an apartment to your single family. We can get an SUP for an accessory dwelling unit, but you have to go through that process. So there's certain limitations that kind of prohibit or limit adaptability in single family developments. So that's another interesting point that we have brought up.
I like to ask everyone, I'm really big on trees and I done reading and looking like the purpose of, Central Park. That when they developed New York City, the park was there for the health of the people within the city to get away from the concrete they eat. And how much it helps the city thrive by having parks. But then when I look at like what we're building here, right here at that circle, and I think you guys remember, I asked them about saving trees. They whacked them down, just like right at 77 down here. They're gonna, those big pecan trees that's been there forever. Instead of trying to find something that will go there to save those, we're just cutting everything. And that's what I love about our neighborhood is the trees. And we're not, it doesn't seem like we're trying to save them because we really need these trees and stuff for oxygen and purification of air and all. And we're building, knocking down, but we're not requiring builders to at least leave an area or park where kids can go and they could play and they have shade and stuff like that. So that's something I really wanted to kind of focus on, especially like with over here by the lake, those trees. I want to see that area develop, but I want to also try to save the trees because we need those.
Ben and I had this discussion about a tree ordinance, because like you said, first thing the builders do is they come in and cut everything down.
Yes.
And you look at some of the cities that have ordinances that say, you know, over a certain size or number of trees per, you know.
But look at our city name.
Yeah,
I mean, our neighborhood is full of red oak trees. So our neighborhood is a representation of the city. I mean, we're tons of them, pecan trees and everything. But now when we're bringing these new neighborhoods, I don't think we even say, hey, can you guys have the entranceway or a parkway?
we have to go beyond this group
Yes,
to drive that.
Yeah.
And there's probably not a lot of support for that. Because like bar ditches instead of regular drainage, it's cheaper to
right.
do it the other way. And people just want to come in, make a buck and get out. And if we want to change the look of our community, we've got to stop that.
Yes. I mean, you've probably seen a lot of times when we're building, I ask these things because we'll see where there's an entranceway where we can save some of that, but
Well, we had the gentleman a while back was talking about how the bar ditches in front of the houses add a rural character. And I'm like, no, it saves you money.
yes.
You know,
Yes,
just be honest and tell us it's cheaper.
right.
And don't, you know, you want it to look rural, put up white picket fences like they
Yeah.
used to have, you know, white rail fences. Something like that. That makes it look rural. Put barbed wire up, but don't tell me that a bar ditch makes it look rural. It makes it look less expensive.
Because imagine red oak with no red oak trees in it.
Yeah.
And that's where we're headed.
Well, I have noticed, you go down towards Austin and out through the hill country, there are companies now that specialize in going in, developing a property without destroying all the trees. They go in, they cut out the trash trees underneath, and then you build your house under that.
Midlothian has some like that as well as, what's the other, Mansfield. And they go in and they
Yeah.
clear up the plot,
I
leave the trees.
think that should be a requirement of every new development.
I'm just saying it's something for us to think about as we get more developments, because we got 4 or 5 new ones. And it's just whack.
They just come in, cut it all down, pile it up and burn it the first chance they get.
Well, the trees also need to be looked at by a landscape architect that can assess whether they're near the end of their life. We may think they're worth keeping because they look beautiful, but they may need to come out anyway.
That's
So, yeah,
understood.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But like, I'll take for example, right here in we approved it for shopping center development right behind it.
Yeah.
Right here, this
Yeah.
property on the corner, right behind, the Hamptons.
Oh, yeah.
Next to the Hamptons, yeah.
So they went in and they cut, but then if you notice, then they're like, they want to leave trees there. And then along that side road, they've been clearing out, and there are some that needs to come down.
Yeah.
But there are those that seem like their intention right now is to save those, so when we do that development, maybe that's something we can kind of like, hey. Because if you go to North Carolina, Georgia, Virginia, shopping centers are buried behind trees and it looks nice.
North of Houston, going out through,
Spring and.
Spring and out that direction, you can't tell there's a Walmart back there, the
Correct.
Redlands.
Yes,
Yeah, we were just in Charlotte, North Carolina, walking downtown. There's more trees in downtown Charlotte than
Yes.
there are in Red Oak.
yes.
And it's just, it's all about planning and stuff.
And they
And that makes it
incorporated,
more livable.
and they incorporated into, like, there was a restaurant we went to in Charlotte 2 weeks ago. The trees was there and they put a seating wall around the trees. And you sit there, that's where you wait to go into this restaurant. But it gives canopy, it cools the
It
city
keeps it
down.
cooler.
Yes,
Yeah, I mean, we walk everywhere in Charlotte.
it's already changed a bit.
Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah, good conversation.
I think part of our problem, especially out here, is the spaces. You know, you look at a lot of the places that he talks about and that we talked about in the previous book. It was small communities. But you know, we moved out here and everything's miles away. You know, I had a customer in Boston. He said, "Can you go to San Antonio?" I said, "Sure, I'll catch a plane tomorrow." And he says, "A plane?" And you tell him it's a 4-hour drive and he's like, 4 hours, I can cross 6 state lines and be in a foreign country. You know, and we become not necessarily so reliant, but addicted to our vehicles.
Well, I think we had a conversation too, like I was saying, when you're in Europe, you can go from Paris to London in a couple hours on a train.
Yeah,
And I was in New York all last week. All you see is people walking through the street with their suitcases, getting off the trains, go from one place to the other.
and our public transportation, to maybe get from Red Oak to Carrollton was 2.5 hours. That's if I made every connection.
Wow.
2.5 hours using DART.
So with having all the space, like they say in the book, we tend to build entire shopping centers, entire neighborhoods, and then so something goes wrong, the whole thing fails, or the entire shopping center might sink.
Right.
If something goes wrong. Whereas the incremental changes, just 1 or 2 things might fail and something else in different place, it's catastrophic.
When the anchor stores at the malls, little town I grew up in, we were there and, they lost Kmart, Bell's, all that's left is Pennies. So basically they just walled off half the mall.
Yeah. Well, I think that goes back to something I brought before with multi-use, which I think we're starting to get some applicants because to get big retail stores, let's just say a Central Market or a Harris Teeter or a Kroger's, if you look at what's going on in downtown Dallas, they're building these places, but the way they were able to sell them is they're putting apartments on top of them. So their customer base, you're giving them their customer base.
Yeah.
And if Starbucks went out of service right next door, the hair salon could move in. So, and you see that a lot in Charlotte, that everything they're building now is mixed use because people learned from COVID that they want to be able to get stuff without having to drive 30 minutes to Home Depot or 40 minutes to a grocery store.
We would love to walk places, but from our neighborhood, there's no place to walk to, you know,
Park.
the park, that's about it.
Yeah.
And by the way, they've opened the disc golf course back up.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so whoever was asking about that last
Yeah,
time, it's
my
open.
neighbor was asking about it.
Yeah, it's open again. We played it the other morning.
So in chapter 2, they discussed, or he discussed private and public investment and which comes first. And historically, it's been private investors who build up these shacks and these iterations of developments, and it keeps growing. Then eventually the city comes in and starts to put in infrastructure to support that because it makes sense. In these days, a lot of cities are putting in the infrastructure and kind of holding out or putting in the development, putting in the sidewalks, all of the utilities, accumulating that, huge debt in hopes that they attract a huge developer. And sometimes at the expense of maybe not the highest and best use, just to fill up a vacant piece of property.
We've seen enough of that.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts?
I think that goes back, when I read that, what kept going into my mind is, why do we have to build so fast? Why do we feel like we're in such a hurry to grow? And again, I'm not the anti-growth. I'm the anti-growth against bad growth or growth that's gonna be, that's what you said, empty, out of control, or empty buildings. And I think that that's, you know, like we talked about before with having Ben and Emma and them being able to have a bigger place at the table and saying, hey, this is a true plan. And, you know, Mr. Pauly and I both sat on the council. I didn't know everything. I still don't know near enough after all those years. I need experts to tell me, but I need to be willing to listen to the experts to say, okay, it's not about how fast we can do it, but doing it the right way. And, you know, that's what I kept reading in here was, maybe we've got to slow down a little bit. Maybe we've got to slow down in order to do it this way, to have the trees, to have those kind of areas. I would rather have a nice city than a huge city.
Right. And that's something I wanted to ask Scott and Mike, because you both have been on the council aspect of it. From your experience, how can we as a city, and I've had this conversation with Ben before, we have certain properties here that we approve and they turn around in 2-3 months, that is there a way that the city can look at attracting businesses? And I know some cities do grants for like business, certain types of businesses. Like I know the city of Dallas is now giving $40,000 for people, first-time home buyers, to come to Dallas. Or their grants.
That's crazy.
But it's been that way forever.
For real?
Yes. I mean, Grand Prairie, Grand Prairie, DeSoto. If you look at first-time homebuyers, there's so many different grants out there for different cities that are getting first-time homebuyers to come to the city to, I guess, get more people there. But I also remember being in Miami that certain types of businesses that they didn't have, they would have grants to bring, like a grocery store or something that wasn't tax based. And maybe that's something that we can start looking at trying to find out, because I know you're supposed, and I think you all talked about, there's supposed to be excess dollars in the budget coming from Compass eventually. Or we can-
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, eventually, where we could use those.
So our mechanisms right now, because we're not a cash-rich city,
Correct.
is tax abatement agreements,
Right.
development agreements, things that are good for developers, but not like, hey, man, here's $1 million,
Right.
come over here, you know, so if we. Yeah, so what you're talking about is economic development incentives, and there's some, we just don't have. And we have a good toolbox, we do, we just don't have the Mac toolbox.
Oh, no, of
all-
course.
All the freaking
Right.
everything, you know?
And that's what I was thinking about, like, cause we talked about rebuilding downtown, because I work at DFW every morning. I go down, what is it, Northwest Highway, to Shipley's, get a donut, which eventually hopefully open here, and drive through Grapevine.
Another donut.
Yeah.
That town is amazing and what they've done with the great, yeah. Hey, but they're not open yet either though, but
Yeah.
remember we kept talking about donut places
yeah.
and then
How
here's
many- how many donut shops and taquerias and
Chicken.
chickens, you know,
and without naming, well, the place I'm talking about is right there next to CVS and Whataburger. It was a dry cleaners, and since that, it's been 20 different things.
it's, yeah. and
Every
it's about
3
to be
months.
Something else.
Yeah, and it's getting ready to be something else again.
Yeah.
That's the best.
And I just, as far as business development, I wish we could be more strategic.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, we can.
It's not our job to tell the guy that wants to open a donut shop,
Right.
not
Right.
to open a donut shop.
Right.
Well, staff does encourage people who are, looking to occupy suites and even build from scratch to look outside the box, look at healthy options,
Right.
in Red Oak. you know, because if there's a low, you know, supply, then there's gonna be a high demand for your product.
Right.
So we do try and encourage them
Something
to
we-
think outside, you know, the box of barbecue or chicken or.
But we can't,
Right.
we can't dictate.
Right. Yeah, you
right.
can't,
It
you
has
can't
to
put,
make financial sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. My buddy, we talk about that all the time. Hey, we should have a place to eat. Well, we're gonna put up the money.
right.
Yeah, it's different too. If you run a restaurant and you don't get that revenue, what you gonna do? How you gonna stay in business?
Well, the other
You
thing
can be
too,
happy and say, well.
Well,
serve
even,
these
even the
vegetables.
lights, I don't know how.
It's not only
accurate this
vegetables.
is.
Broccoli.
I used
well,
to
there's a
do-
lot of salad franchises that are around now.
Right, like
Yeah.
Salada,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Up north, right? That's where the volume is.
Well, there are Arlington too. I mean, there's.
yes, and Grand Prairie.
Where the volume is, that's the lunch.
Well, if you
But
look at
after lunch, it's
Arlington,
just dead.
Arlington and Grand.
But
Prairie,
but citizens here, they go there
Yes.
for those types of uses, but
We do.
those things need to be here.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and you look at the market,
They still don't believe it when Lee McCleary tells them how much some of the restaurants do here.
Correct.
Still don't, they don't believe them when he tells them.
That's,
Right.
But They could make it.
To me, it's
Right.
something moving it up somewhere. I don't know where it's just.
Well, probably it's the
It's
movie
the
theater be
open
first.
and
unknown market, yeah.
So all these big data centers that are being put in, I don't know how many employees that they have, but,
not
Not a
many,
lot,
well, they don't have a lot.
No,
Okay, well.
but they
then-
generate.
Big
very low.
Well, okay, then my points.
Well, they're
Not important.
generating a lot of tax dollars. for
Well, I
us
was just
eventually.
thinking if they had, like Baylor Scott and White has got a great cafeteria,
Right.
you know? And if the businesses came in and they employed a lot of people
Mm.
and they, you know, they didn't have a cafeteria, then we could, you know,
Right.
build something nearby.
A lot of those
That way.
data centers won't have.
Yeah,
50,
okay.
30,
60
yeah,
people.
30
Yeah.
people, I think. But the other thing we really need, and we've talked about this, I've been fortunate to join Lee with several people, is hotels, because I don't know what DeSoto and Lancaster are doing. I mean, every month they're building another one right on the other side of DeSoto, and they just open up. But the parks, what's his name?
Who?
The parks director,
Cal?
Cal, him and I talked, we're booking
Yeah.
out the fields,
Absolutely.
but we're losing the tax money because they're going
Themselves.
they're
Yeah.
going to DeSoto, they're going to Waxahachie, and they complain. But we definitely need another hotel.
I think their legacy is gonna.
And that field is booked.
Yeah, it is, but
You know, we live across the street, we see the lights and we hear the roar of the crowd.
but if they stay,
all the time.
if we have accommodations here,
They'd stay
that-
here.
they would stay here, and that would bring more tax dollars, which would bring more restaurants. And then just by the teams that are coming here, we could get more sit-down restaurants and things along that line, but we are in desperate need of something as far as.
You
yeah.
said more hotels? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do they say? I mean, when hotel developers call the city,
Well, there's,
They're,
or you get those companies?
yeah, we get them. They mostly go through economic development first. To just see what we'll give them. Yeah, they're like, oh, what can we get? I've had a couple try to go in some, straight zoning districts and they just, you know, they submitted a couple plans and then kind of went away. But, yeah, we've talked to a few lately that are on good sites that if they came to fruition, hopefully they do soon. You know, obviously you guys will see.
yeah, so maybe once the movie theater opens and then the pads start opening,
Yeah.
that will be, because I think we talked
Yeah.
about one possibility of one going across the streets.
Yeah, yeah.
But that, I think the hotels alone will bring more people here, which would generate more profit that, you know,
Yeah.
because people at the hotels need somewhere to eat. And I mean, and I'm proud to say Lancaster did all the Bojangles, the In-N-Outs.
Yeah, during my term, they had the sleep-in mainstay
Yeah.
built along I-35. So,
He was involved with all.
Yeah, that's what I said.
yeah.
That's what I'm kind of getting to, like, hello, somebody help bring all of that stuff there.
So, chapter 3 discussed about the infinite game and, asked a really important question, towards the beginning of the chapter. Should cities seek to, make a profit? A lot of people
They should certainly seek to stay in.
Yeah.
stay in what?
Stay in the black.
Stay in the black.
In the black, okay.
That's kind
If
of,
there's excess profit, they're not doing, put it towards future growth. That makes sense to me that they should try to make a profit, yes.
And he talked about, or they talked about the, a couple of the, why it's so important for cities to make profit in their budget.
as long as it's not off the citizens, but yeah.
Well, and there, that goes into the stifling nature of high land values.
Right.
I think we all know what that is. And I, you know, and that's concerning. It's concerning to all of us up here personally, but it's concerning as a city that where are you gonna make a profit from? Where's that profit gonna come from? You know, sales tax is a great thing. We always talked about from way back in the old days, we had to get rooftops in order to get the rest of it here, to get the restaurant or this, that, and the other to come around, but it's still heavily burdened on taxpayers and
Right, I don't know that, I don't know how cities make a profit without the taxpayers, but but when he points out how, you know, road to serve a neighborhood doesn't get paid for by that neighborhood, the city's constantly falling behind, so. I don't know how you can do it, but it seems like that's the problem. Our cities.
Because they also discussed about how, like, for example, for road costs $1 million to build, that $1 million is not just going to build the road. It's going to take care of the maintenance. It's going to sponsor the fire. It's going to sponsor the police. So it's not really just a luxury. It's kind of a necessity. And the city makes its taxes based off of each transaction that's made and the services that they charge to citizens.
So let me ask you a question, because I'm naive in this aspect of it. So let's say the Oaks that is being built. Do we as a city go in and build those roads?
No,
Or do
they
they,
build, pay for everything, and then they're so generously dedicate all of that to us.
Maintain.
And then we, maintain it.
maintain it.
That's right.
because that was the same thing with the, like this is square, with that road, because I thought we had some costs. Involved in that.
So they, without getting into all the detail,
Right.
we pay for some and they pay for some.
Okay, so,
Because it was more than what would have been required just to serve their development.
gotcha. Okay.
which again goes back, and I heard your tone a little bit.
Well, because I,
Would no, but he's right.
Yeah.
He's right. But we have gotten to a point where, and I'm not just saying Red Oak, everybody in this area wants to be first and
Yeah.
get the most and get the biggest and get.
but it's,
And I don't know that that's necessarily
but you know
what
what's
we need
kinda-
to be looking at.
It's kind of weird because if you look at south of 20, it's kind of slow. But when you go north of 121, Salinas in them, it's like, there's a feeling, you go up there 2 months later, there's a whole shopping center, there's a whole development.
Well, but it came, all of that came in its time because those of us that have been around here for a long time. Remember going through Frisco when there was a grocery store that closed at 7, we got this ball field behind it. And
But
that
I'm
was
just
it.
saying, it was
So
something,
it was its time and it is our time. And I think that's where everybody's jumping,
right,
but. You know, I'm almost like protect our borders
no, without a doubt, yeah.
of our city. And then build our city how we want to at the pace we want to. It
Because-
doesn't have to be every developer that comes in
Correct.
here gets to get what they want.
Well, and I think that's what we should stand our ground because,
These developers are going to the next city.
Yeah.
well, but,
And-
And
And
Well,
to
no,
me,
I
that's,
understand
and
that.
to me, that's okay.
yeah, I agree
If
with
you're
you.
developing, and Derek and I've had this conversation outside several times.
Yeah.
If you're developing brand new additions, and I'm gonna say this again, because there's
Right.
people that hadn't been here. I served another 6 eviction notices in a brand new housing addition. They're rentals.
Well, look at these
You go
apartments.
down and you look and you see how many of them have, I've learned how now. You go and you look and see if they've got a lockbox on the garage, that's a rental. And you can go and find a rental within every 4 or 5. And Derek said he did the same thing. He went out and asked them, what was it you asked the builder out there?
And do they sell to investors? They looked at, they might look at me like I had 3 eyes. She's like, no, we never do that.
And that's a lie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
But-
almost in neighborhoods.
They sell to whoever wants to buy it.
After they
Yeah,
get foreclosed.
Not Camden, but-
Camden, Oakmont, is that what the second one?
Right, yeah.
The one next.
Camden, Oakmont. I mean, I've got to do a set out on one Friday that the house on this side being built right now, the house across is being built right now. These are sold. But they're just, they're all in there.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Wow.
Well,
I didn't know that as council member. I did not have a
They
clue.
start bringing up
I was-
affordability. I mean, that's been talked around for the last 20 years. I mean,
Well, I think these
what's
apartments,
affordability?
these apartments they just put in, I think most of those are higher than our mortgages.
Luxury apartments.
Yeah, but they're.
600 square foot apartment there at, they're on Hickory Creek. What's it called?
Emerson.
Emerson, yeah,
Yeah, 600 square feet is $1,200.
But I kept hearing, when I was on council a while back that we gotta have this housing. We've got all these people. We've got to build these additions quickly. We've got to. We've got all these people coming and buying homes. And I felt like that's what we had. And now I'm finding out that's not what we have.
No.
And so maybe it's a timeout. Let these guys really have some look at what we want to see with it.
yeah, because
Instead
they
of
can
just letting any
overbuild.
developer come in and that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, they can let
We've
them
seen that in other
overbuild, and then we can be.
Can, but controlling who can own a home, can someone own multiple homes?
Yeah.
If we could limit that, perhaps they get individuals to buy the home.
I've seen,
Maybe
in the news lately where cities are doing away with these,
To rent a home.
what is it, the, short-term rentals and short-term leases, and I don't know if that's something council is looking at, but you can put an ordinance in there, and then I guess it's just up to it being enforced.
So we actually talked about it just recently, and I only found like 6 or 7 in the city, so there's not a lot. And granted, I looked at VRBO and Airbnb.
Right.
So there's only, but those are the major ones, right?
But like you
Um,
said, he's evicted a
but-
bunch.
Yeah, well, I think what he's talking about is long-term.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, they're long-term.
Okay, yeah,
They're meant to be long-term.
Yeah.
They don't normally
They
end
don't
up
make it.
being
Is the
long-term.
person renting them not requiring enough of a background check and enough,
Yeah, they're
so many
not.
months in advance of rent and that kind of thing? So is that something?
Most of them are pretty elaborate, but I mean, I don't know. I think, like you said, the affordability part of it is just not there, because everybody's trying to make money, right?
yeah.
They're not trying to break even when they rent these houses. They want to serve.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I don't have a problem there. I've rented in my lifetime and that's great. But it does not hold the same level of
Well, you can tell. in your
investment
neighborhoods.
in what you want to see and what you want to do, which is again, why I was telling them, the people on each side lit me up out there about and what that does is now, the people who said they invested and came out here and put their life into making their investment of their home, want out. And they're afraid they're not going to be able to get out what they've put in. And that, what you said earlier is what concerns me is, will we have a lot of vacant places and then the level go down? So do we need to continue to have more and more building, or do we need to slow down a little bit? That's,
I think,
that's
if you
my
think,
question.
we can't even, I mean, you thought the bond election. These schools at capacity, who wants to move to?
Well, but that's the thing,
Yeah, these football stadiums, people don't like football stadiums, I'm telling you, something, that's a draw.
but,
These big,
yeah.
nice football stadiums are a draw. But if
Well,
people
that's the
don't
other
want
thing.
those, like, all right.
Sure, and I think I brought it up months ago with, Jerry Jones and them developing down there, so I agree with Scott that we don't have to take everything that comes to us, we can afford to wait. Because there's growth going around, Middle Lothian is blowing up,
Yeah.
Waxahachie is blowing up. So I think we can be choosy, we don't have to take every other donut shop, we don't have to take every barbecue place that comes and turns around and goes.
Well, if it's a good one. you like it.
Do
Well-
you see, individuals coming here, and I guess if they talk to you, do you see them going to Waxahachie?
I don't know that I guess, yeah, well, I guess I don't know if they are, a lot of people call me to beat around the bush, right? They're like, hey, what's going on in Red Oak? Oh, wait, is there some land over here and what can I do there? And I get a lot of those calls, and a lot of them from developers, so I don't even know who their end user is, right? So, and then, so I don't know if they're actually, you know, end up going somewhere else or not.
Right.
So I guess I don't really have a feel or a stat I could throw at you for that, you know.
So where are we with the alcohol? Because
It's a big attractor.
well, that's one of, because I've had conversations with restaurants and stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Missed something here. Where are we with the alcohol? Where you going there?
well, no, because
I'm not staying on this commission.
these types of restaurants that.
We have to
will
have a
cover-
local option election.
Well,
Somebody's
and
gotta
also
put that
asking-
together and do that, and then the citizens of Red Oak can come out, or it actually may be the county. Like everybody in the precinct of the county.
Because we're having restaurants that are open.
I don't know. Do you know more about that?
What, I don't guess I know what.
So like you can't.
A local
You
election.
can't serve
No,
liquor,
right.
you know, and so you have to have a local
Right.
option election that says you can serve it here now.
Or
And
do
I
the
don't know if
private
it's
club.
just Red Oak or is it a
No,
precinct?
it's your city.
It's the city.
It's the city, yeah, because
Okay,
Waxahachie has Fat Tuesdays and
yeah.
Fish Fry.
Hey,
And in fact, I think we lost Brandon Burger from Red Oak to Waxahachie because of that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was the
Oh, that's
landlord.
right.
That was the
Oh,
landlord.
okay.
That was the
What
landlord.
about 342 and Hugo's? 342 is gonna have a bar and Hugo's has got a bar.
So they do the
Like a membership.
club membership. Yeah.
Okay,
And there's ways around that they can do that through TABC and do that without the city
Right.
jumping out here, because
Right.
gotcha.
you would open yourself up to some other things. Because right along with that becomes the liquor stores of Glen High. I don't have a problem. I have actually been there maybe once, but that's not what I want to see coming to being left, right and center if we open it up to something
I
like
think-
that.
I think when we talked about it, there was a way of doing it where it had to be,
On premise.
well, a square footage type thing, but where it had
Well,
to be
they're
food.
they're the.
What we talked about, like a
Yeah,
restaurant,
it's a percentage of sales.
correct,
Yeah.
because it's just like when you're doing
Or less.
clubs and things like
Yeah.
that, adult club, you have to have
Right.
certain percentage of alcohol
They're
and
going-
food, so there's ways around that.
Well, we could have a moratorium on building, which wouldn't be very popular, but, you know, and be the jewel that has the property after everybody else's land gets built up, you know, and here we sit with all this land for them to come in and.
Do y'all think that movie theater is gonna be a major attraction?
Oh, I think so.
What's that?
Well, because it's,
The movie theater, you think that's gonna kind of?
Yeah, it's got more,
the
it's,
city
it's more than just a movie.
it's,
theater.
yeah, it's,
Inter-
but isn't it supposed to be a bar?
It's a total,
Isn't it a bar?
Entertainment.
it does have,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's a bar, bowling alley and movie
Yeah.
theater.
It's like the one in
I'm,
Washington.
Okay.
I'm a huge movie guy and I'm looking
not- it's
forward
new.
to it.
Yes.
But have you seen what's going on over in Waxahachie at their theaters? Their theater?
What happened?
What's happened?
Kids are running amok. They're
Yeah.
assaulting people in the parking lot,
That's the
breaking
reason-
into
that's the reason
cars,
why-
threatening people.
That's the reason why I brought that. This movie theaters bring a lot of kids.
It's causing a lot of issues.
We might
It's
have-
all come since they
Our
opened
financial
the
returns-
arcade and bowling alley.
Well, I think
It's a
that's
drop
something,
off daycares.
Yeah,
Kind of like a Friday night football game.
under
We beg your
16 or 18, you have to be accompanied by an adult. And it's one adult per 10 kids.
And that could be a 19-year-old.
19?
I don't
Well,
know.
I don't, you know, I've read part of it.
but isn't that something we can do with, is it? What is Muhammad's company? Bell? Big Front, something that, as far as the security for that.
Well, I'm sure they would do something about
Yeah.
it. If it's
Yes, I mean, that's something,
taking away business.
right,
I won't go there on the weekends now. because of all the stories that we've heard.
Yeah, I mean, I normally go to Cedar Hill. I've never had any issues over there, but I'm not saying that they don't, but I think that I remember traveling in Maryland years ago when I was a kid. And it was something that was kind of weird and I thought, what's going on? But almost every major shopping center like that had a patrol car that patrolled that area and was always there.
It's gonna be needed.
And we've kind of, I mean, we've kind of got away from that now and just putting these security guards that usually are kids themselves and they don't care. So maybe that's something that we can look at.
To your point, it's turned into a daycare center.
Yeah.
And that's, when people went to the movies.
Yeah.
They went to the movies and they went home.
Yeah.
These kids, they go to the movies. Sometimes they probably don't even go to the movie, they just go hang out. And
Well, maybe that's something once that complete plan.
yeah, that's a whole other discussion, but.
From your
Yeah, we need-
Well,
What's your strategy?
maybe that's something that we could talk with the chief about or city council as far as once this place gets fully open as is needed. Because I think the department has grown some anyway, so.
Well, and
I'm sure
going
they have
back.
A lot of
to
good
your
off-duty jobs.
earlier comment
Yeah,
about
there you go.
Carolina and up that, out that direction.
Yes.
A lot of that has been driven by the growth along the tollway.
Right.
When I moved here 30 years ago, the only thing out there was EDS. And you had to drive down a dirt road to get to the construction site because there was no North Central Expressway. It was being built out to that point. And now, if you go out there, that whole area, Frisco, all the way back down to Dallas is all developed.
Yeah.
And those people had to go somewhere, so they kept going north. And they ended up in Salina and those places. And that's why it's growing out. But different than us, those people that buy those houses because they work at all those companies out there, that's where they live. That's, people that come down here don't have that same investment in the location because of where they work and where they live.
So,
That, at least that's my impression.
But-
I see a lot of transient.
well, that's what I was gonna say, because when I drive out, because once Google said they were gonna build here, I've driven out there to the site in Midlothian several times, which is something else I was gonna ask Ben. There they have berms and are blocking it off like it's secure. Here I don't see us blocking it off. But if you look at the number of homes that have been built in Midlothian in the last 6 years, and they're not, $200, $300 homes, they're really nice development, so people are wanting to get away to get something better. And they're driving, so we're in the middle, like what we were saying, we can hold out and get better properties and not just take everything that comes here and then turn around and leave.
Makes sense. All right, everyone, I think we had a pretty good discussion. We had a pretty good discussion. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion adjourned. Second.
All in favor?
You gotta hit the gavel.
Bye-bye.